A Kelly File follow-up now on campaign trail attacks against two candidates for U.S. Senate, each being challenged about their service to our nation. In Alaska, Republican candidate and Marine Corps veteran Dan Sullivan was attacked by a super PAC supporting Democrat Mark Pryor, criticizing Mr. Sullivan for time he spent in our nation's capital after September 11th.
Documents show that while Sullivan pocketed a Maryland tax credit for residents living there, he was voting in Alaska, claiming to be one of us.
In Arkansas, Congressman Tom Cotton was attacked by his opponent, Democratic Senator Mark Pryor. Mr. Pryor taking issue with Mr. Cotton's time in the armed forces.
I think that's part of this sense of entitlement that he gives off, is that almost it's like, I serve my country, therefore let me to the Senate. That's not how it works in Arkansas.
Joining me now, Tom Cotton, Republican congressman from Arkansas and a veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and Dan Sullivan, who's running for U.S. Senate in Alaska and is a Marine Corps veteran. Thank you both so much for being here. Representative Cotton, let me start with you on Senator Mark Pryor saying you have a sense of entitlement that you give off. That you served your country and therefore let me into the Senate.
Thanks, Megan. It's great to be on with you, as always. It was a peculiar statement by Senator Pryor. I certainly didn't learn a sense of entitlement growing up in Yell County on my parents' cattle farm chasing after cows, and I definitely didn't have a sense of entitlement instilled in the Army in basic training by Drill Sergeant Norton and by all my other instructors and mentors in the Army. They taught me about hard work, about sacrifice, and about service to others. That's what I've tried to do, not only in the Army, but in the United States House, and that's what I plan to do for the people of Arkansas if they elect me to be their next United States Senator.
Senator Pryor didn't serve in the armed forces, right?
No, Megan, he did not.
Do you think he lacks an understanding of the discipline and the training and the commitment that you have to go through in order to successfully go participate in the armed forces as you did?
Well, Megan, I think it was a surprising statement. Again, I certainly didn't learn a sense of entitlement in the Army. That's the last thing you learn in the Army, and that's the last thing that the soldiers, the men and women I led in Iraq and Afghanistan,
displayed. Where do you think that's coming from? That's what I'm trying to get at. Why would he say that you have a sense of entitlement, that you deserve a Senate seat just because you served?
Well, Senator Pryor's been a politician for 24 years now. I'm in my first term in the House, and I feel like he thinks that maybe I should wait my own term. He said that I'm a young man in a hurry, and I'll plead guilty to that charge. Someone should be in a hurry to fix all the problems that he and Barack Obama have caused in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Sullivan, let me talk to you. So now you are running in Alaska, and this is another tight
That's right, Megan.
Right? But now they're going after you because you haven't always been in Alaska. You went to Washington, D.C. for a time, in part when you were serving in the Marines. And so even a local news anchor out there came out and said, come on, come off of it. Do you think that this attack is going to resonate with Alaskans?
Well, you know, Megan, this is it's really not about service. It's part of a broader issue of service. In Alaska, there is a tremendous tradition of serving your country, particularly in times of need. And after the September 11th attacks, literally thousands of Alaskans stopped what they were doing to serve their country in the military and in other ways. And, you know, I was honored to be part of that Alaska tradition. I served a year and a half on active duty, recalled active duty. I also served as an Assistant Secretary of State working on global terrorism issues under Condoleezza Rice.
Right, but you had the nerve to leave Alaska in service of your country. That's what they're going after you for. Let me ask you this. Mr. Sullivan, because we've seen this before. I mean, we've seen John Kerry, who, of course, you know, came under criticism for his own critique of American soldiers after Vietnam, come out and say the following about military service. And he took a lot of heat. Some believe it's a window into how some, in particular on the left, view military service. Stand by and listen.
If you make the most of it, and you study hard, and you do your homework, and you make an effort to be smart, you can do well. If you don't, you get stuck in Iraq.
Do you think that now Secretary Kerry speaks for many on the left when it comes to military service?
Look, some of the best members of Alaska society, American society, by far, are the men and women I've served with in the military, in the Marine Corps. And what I think is going on here is whether it's Mark Pryor or Mark Pryor, they can't run on their records. They have records of failure supporting, in Mark Begich's case, Barack Obama 97% of the time. So what do they want to do? They want to change the topic. And what they're trying to do now is denigrate service, whether it's Tom's service or my service, because they can't run on their records. And I think that's a losing strategy.
That's interesting to sort of get that window into how some folks view military service, which is noble and difficult and requires so much courage. Thank you both. We appreciate your service and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Megan.